Pirate for Maryvale!
Yeah!
Yeah!
Baby! Turn the drug users in. Turn the gang members in. Police are here for us. We're here for the police. We're working together.
No more gangs!
No more gangs!
No more gangs!
No more gangs!
No more drugs!
No more drugs!
No more drugs!
No more drugs!
Most of the subdivisions that are built now have homeowners associations, and they have a way of controlling the things that occur within the subdivision. And all the older ones, including most of those in the west side, do not have.
It's called a broken window syndrome. If someone doesn't fix their broken window, then other people are not going to begin to care, and this is what the neighborhood is going to begin to look like.
It was a community that was aging, it was starting to have some problems, it was starting to show its age, and so therefore good news was hard to find.
We had been beaten down so much, every negative report that you could think. Somebody would drop dead on the west side of Central and they say another murder in Maryvale.
Seems like gangs have taken over the entire neighborhood.
And it seems like every time we start getting a little bit ahead and start doing some things for ourselves, someone comes out with a derogatory article that slaps us back into our place, so to speak, and we resent the hell out of it.
When this first started, I turned around to my wife, and we just moved from Los Angeles a few years back, and they were starting our neighborhood association, and I asked my wife, I said, do you want to get into this, or do you want to move to some other neighborhood? She says, I'm through running. She says, let's fight. I says, you got it, we're going to fight.
Well, my wife's name is Mary. Vale is a green valley, so Maryvale. And this area was all green. It was in agricultural of all types. I used my GI Bill to get a financing on a home. And we were planning this house for our own use and had an opportunity to sell it before we had it completed. And when I say we, Mary and I did practically all of the work on the home from the ground up. It was hot, and sometimes she didn't do exactly as I wanted her, whatever we were setting up, and sometimes I'd talk to her like she was a hod carrier. And she let me know that I'd better stop that, or I'd be out there by myself. We sold about 13 houses, I think it was, one at a time, before we started building subdivisions.
You could buy the same house, same square footage in Maryvale for 10–15% cheaper than you could get in other parts of the city. And when you're coming here as a young, new family with a new job, dollars were tight, and it was important to have a nice home, nice neighborhood, good schools, and we had that, and have a budget that you could still buy groceries and some of the disposable items that were important to us. When I first moved to Maryvale, and this goes back 30 years, the old core, the Maryvale Mall core, was in the area of 51st Avenue and Indian School. It's an interesting blend of housing, and when I say blend, I have to do that with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, because I classify this as sort of a heterogeneous community. The housing cost, style, and makeup is basically in a fairly narrow range. And because of that, I think we have some other problems that face the community, in that our wants and needs are all confined in a fairly narrow spectrum. Most of the subdivisions that are built now have homeowners associations, and they have a way of controlling the things that occur within the subdivision. And all the older ones, including most of those in the west side, did not have. And as we got into some of the problems of the 70s, we started to watch the deterioration occur, and people started getting fed up and they would move because of that. The neighborhoods were starting to deteriorate, and we had very little ability to control what was happening.
I'll go back to around 1990-91 when things were starting to get into a situation of concern, and some of the properties were beginning to deteriorate. And we had ordinances, the zoning ordinance and the property maintenance ordinance, that addressed most of those issues. However, there were so many issues and so little staff to take care of those things that we recognized the fact that we had to have help from the neighborhoods and the residents, and they needed to be more participatory in how we address these problems.
Kathy and Dwight Amery decided that something had to be done in this area, along with some other people, and so we met over at their house in very hot degree weather, and decided then that we're going to start doing something about it. We had a very hard time finding places to meet at first, but we got that straightened out too.
We started looking at what we needed to do. We needed to address cleaning up the houses, making them look better, neighborhood cleanups, alley cleanups, trying to just make it all look a lot better, because to build momentum you need the visual effect first to get people, hey, they're really going to do something instead of just sitting around talking. They're actually out doing things in the community, and therefore the people get involved. And we found that before we ask for help, we have to prove that we're somebody.
So the ones with the rakes take a sack, pick up the smaller stuff, and somebody else just get it stacked, pick up the big stuff and dump it in the dumpster. When you get your sack full, empty the sack in the dumpster. That way we don't have to use up a whole lot of sacks.
A lot of times, if there's a problem property in a particular neighborhood and they want to help the individual clean it up, the neighborhood association can work with them to address the problem. A helping hand with some help with some neighbors is very welcomed and can really solve the problem.
My husband was ill, and through Dwight and help, we got a new roof on our house. Also, we got it painted because we couldn't afford it, and we just couldn't do it because we weren't capable of doing it.
That's what it's all about, neighbors helping neighbors. And
other times, people are not so quick to to let you help, and they take offense to the fact that you think that their property does not meet the standards of the rest of the neighborhood. And in those situations, we have ordinances that address it.
They can report these violations. The city can go out and basically clean them up or take them to court and have the courts do it.
About 11 years ago, in 1/4 of a square mile in my neighborhood, I counted 49 vacant houses and 53 houses up for sale. Why were these houses vacant to begin with? Why didn't we have the residents who didn't want to live there anymore? So I decided that I needed to take some kind of action. And I went to Valley Interfaith Project, and together we began to organize the neighborhood first and hold kitchen table meetings. And then we began to work on an affordable housing strategy. It's a whole new way of rebuilding a community from the bottom up. And that the people need to become involved. People need to begin to take pride in their homes. The more rentals you have, the less pride there is, because they don't own the home. We have too many absentee landlords. So homeownership is one of the best things that can happen in communities and to rebuild our community. We're working strictly in the Maryvale area because the need is so great. And because I've lived here for 27 years, and this is such an important part of my life. I'm going to retire here. I'm going to live here the rest of my life. And I love it here. This is our home, and I'm not going anywhere else. I'm staying here.